Good morning on a Thursday morning. Over the last 3 days, we have looked at three very little parables that Jesus told: the parable of the treasure in the field, and the pearls that the merchant is searching for, and the net cast out to collect fish. And today's parable, or it's not a parable really, it's Jesus checking in with his disciples. This is Matthew 13:51 and 52. Jesus says, again, after these other parables he told, he says, "Have you understood all these things?" Jesus asked. They said to him, "Yes," which got me thinking, because I have just taught them and sung somewhat similar to them, and I don't think I understand. But they said to him, "Yes," and then he said, "Therefore, every legal expert who has been trained as a disciple for the kingdom of heaven is like the head of a household who brings old and new things out of their treasure chest." So legal expert would be somewhat equivalent to what I do, an interpreter of the law, an interpreter of Scripture. That's what New Testament typically means by legal expert. So church leader in that sense, right? And so now he's saying every legal expert, every interpreter of the law who has, in parentheses or insert for our understanding, also been trained as a disciple for the kingdom of heaven, is like the head of a household who brings old and new things out of their treasure chest. For me, this is a little bit of a head scratcher. I think in the context of Matthew, that what Jesus is doing, remember, throughout Matthew so far, the thread that Matthew is emphasizing of what Jesus said connects Jesus with the law and the Old Testament, not just in being Messiah, but also his teaching being consistent with the intent of the Old Testament teaching. And here, I think what we see is somewhat of it's not clear, it's a little bit veiled, but that there is some newness, and we've already seen this in Matthew. Jesus went through in the Sermon on the Mount, "You have heard it said, but I tell you, you have heard it said, but I tell you." And so there is a little bit of new, and so while Jesus is certainly anchored in and bringing forward the old, there are also some new things. When I think about that, I think about communion. I think about Jesus sitting at the table, reclining at the table with his disciples, and breaking the bread and changing what the bread was about. "This is my body broken for you. I want you to get together, and I want you to eat this in remembrance of me." And then the cup, "This is the cup of the new covenant in my blood, the new covenant for you." And then in John we have the new commandment, "A new command I give you, that you should love one another." And so there is some newness in here. It feels to me a little bit like a communion song. It's in Sing the Journey. I have not heard it before. It's not very old. It's a French song. The music is French and old, but the text is within 20 years. It's called "Star of the Morning." Bum bum bum, star of the morning, waking all creation, Son of God's justice, Jesus our salvation, risen in splendor, light of every nation, Christ endless dawn, be praised. Fond for the weary, living water flowing, bathing, refreshing, blessing, all things growing, bringing to harvest seed of gospel sowing, Christ, spring of life, be praised. Vine of God's garden, greenest vesture wearing, crimson your clusters, branches richly bearing, fruit for the pressing, finest wine preparing, Christ, cup of love, be praised. Coming God in glory, raising up the sleeping, healing the broken, comforting the weeping, feasting your people, every promise keeping, Christ, all our joy, be praised. May we experience the newness of Jesus today.